We live in troubled times. The nation has been rocked by 3 supposed radical Islamist terror attacks that killed dozens and an appalling and completely avoidable tower block fire that's killed scores. Just this week, the previously unthinkable happened when someone allegedly drove a van into a crowd of Muslims after they left early morning prayers. I've not mentioned the febrile political scene, which is as high-octane and turbocharged as a Ferrari Formula One car. Therefore, now is the time for clear heads. And it's certainly not the time for the Marxist-loving Shadow Chancellor to call for 1 million to take to the streets to try and force out a democratically elected government, nor for the Labour leader to talk of seizing properties in some 70s-style socialist land grab. Is it really too much to ask those responsible for running this country and for providing an opposition to actually behave responsibly?
Nick, are you struggling to understand why people are upset at the moment?
You tell me why they are.
I'll tell you why they are and what's different about the Grenfell Tower, which you mentioned, and the awful terrorist attacks we've had recently as well. Terrorist attacks are carried out by criminals for a wide range of reasons, people who are troubled, problematic, radicalised. Grenfell Tower, as you said, completely preventable by the people we elect to protect us. The people who died in that tower block were failed by our elected representatives. And that, I think, is why people are so apoplectic, because they were vulnerable people in bed at 1 in the morning. Low-income people, by definition, are the kind of people who live in these tower blocks, these high-rise social housing buildings. And it's because of failures by the people we look to protect us, to make sure that the places we live meet regulation, to make sure that there are procedures to look after us when things go wrong, who failed us. And that is why people are angry. Now, I'm not condoning some of the language you referred to from the Labour Party, but the sentiment, I think, I completely relate to, and I can understand why people are so emotional.
Yeah, OK, I get that. And of course, and if you've had your house burnt down or you've lost loved ones, I totally understand. But that is why we need clear-headed politicians providing a lead, and opposition politicians. And of course the opposition are here to hold to account whatever decisions might have been taken. It's worth remembering, of course, many governments are culpable. It was actually under a previous Labour administration that responsibility was taken away. It was under a coalition government that other areas, and it's under the Conservative government we find ourselves now. What I don't understand is suggesting that we requisition homes that are lying open, that we have 1 million people on the streets in a couple of weeks, that we had a, quote, day of rage this week that luckily passed without any incident, but was a massive drain on our policing. That is not responsible, and these people are supporting it, Avril.
Who are you, Nick, to say how people should respond to something that affects
politicians.
them as deeply as
No.
Well,
I'm not talking about the reasons. Within reason, they can do what they like.
I think, looking at the political response, I agree that some of the language we've heard has not been helpful, but I think the sentiment of it, compulsory purchase orders are part of the ordinary business of government. When we have a big infrastructure project, just let me finish.
Okay,
when we have a big infrastructure project, we don't hesitate to purchase, I'm not saying seize, purchase homes. If we need to, we have people who didn't have anywhere to live. Now, what's been done, it seems, is that a deal has been done with a private housing provider to buy
No, that's
homes that were allocated.
James, come in after we watch.
This is, I think, within the spirit of what the Labour Party were trying to express, that something drastic needed to be done.
So all the viewers, and James, come to you after this, so all the viewers know what we're talking about. This is John McDonnell, the Shadow Chancellor, with Sophie Ridge on Sky News at the weekend.
What Jeremy said is if we've got a crisis like that, we need urgent measures. And if there are empty properties nearby, they should be used. And councils have the power to do that already.
Through compulsory purchase orders,
if necessary,
which would take weeks. Well, it wouldn't help, would it? Because it would take too long.
You can use the existing law extremely fast. But it does point to
by law, the owners must be notified, given 21 days to raise objections. Then there's another 14 days after the
any court in emergency measures, as we saw in wartime periods as well. You can requisition properties. You will need powers to do it. We've got those powers.
Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell. James.
That is the biggest load of codswallop I've ever heard in my entire life.
You should listen to Graham.
Yeah, regularly on Saturdays.
Did I hear the phrase, in wartime Britain? Is that what he said?
I don't agree with comparing this to a war. And you know my views on comparing these crises to a war.
Let me explain.
We have a rule of law. Nobody can circumvent that. So part of what we're saying is nonsense.
Do you really want to destroy this country?
No.
But listen to me. You have a situation where I get there's a crisis, I get people are upset, but we have choices. You know, repossessing people's homes is not an intelligent choice. The government have a responsibility. There's lots of properties that they could rent. You go and rent properties, provide a solution, you rent hotels, hostels, whatever you need to do. But taking other people's homes cannot be an intelligent art. Can you imagine the reputation of this country? We generate, I'm telling you, tens of billions of pounds per year in foreign income that comes to this country with people investing in property in this country. If the government, over this incident, started taking those people's homes, people would stop investing in this country.
We hear a lot about how great it is for the economy that we have so many foreign investors buying homes here. How much does it cost for the government to have to, and fail to, build homes that are needed for people who don't have homes? We have thousands of empty homes in the capital. Foreign investors are profiting from the appreciation. Ordinary people have nowhere to live. There is a cost to that. You know, we're not looking at this in the round. And just before, I know Graham and Michelle want to come in, but I just want to show you the sentiment of some of the people who are close to this and how they feel about that kind of language and the idea that the Labour Party...
Just so I'm clear.
No, I've made it very clear that I don't support the language of seizing homes. We have a rule of law in this country. You can't just march and seize people's homes. You know, nobody is seriously suggesting that. And actually, the Labour Party clarified that that's not what they mean. I just want you to hear that's not what they meant. I just want you to hear how people are actually affected by this, because it's easy for us to sit here and talk about investors and not damaging the reputation.
We mustn't get confused.
Can we just hear what he says, and then you come in, Graham?
People need a revolution in this country, nothing short of that. And if this was any other country, there'd have been a revolution. We've seen how you, the mainstream media, have responded and reacted. For 2 years, you've hounded, demonised Jeremy Corbyn. And you said he was unelectable. He can't be, there's no possibility of this man being elected. And you created that narrative that people actually believed your for a while.
Graham.
I mean, the thing is, I agree with James, and I agree with what you're saying. I know that you're saying, you know, you can't be saying it's like the Second World War when when this tragedy happened. These people have been failed. Absolutely, we all agree with that. And for me, the key things is to get to the bottom of who failed them, who's responsible, and hold them to account. And the deeper, long-term problem that has been going on since, I don't know, the late 70s, is the fact that we've constantly taken away the opportunity for people to live in social housing. There's no supply, there's no stock, and longer term, that is a huge issue for us. And that, for me, is the big problem here, is that if we've neglected a huge part of our community who need to live somewhere with decency, with respect, in all variety of communities, I think that's one of the most amazing things when I first came to London in the late 80s, was how you had so many different types of people living street by street, door to door. And we should be celebrating that, but you can't neglect those people, absolutely. But what upsets me is that we politicise a tragedy in this way.
Yes.
Hold people accountable, by all means, but let's not politicise it. Let's not leverage their pain and suffering in order to score points against each other. And that's what I see is happening at the moment.
Let's also celebrate the return of Michelle Dewberry after being out on campaigning. Good luck with all of that. What do you say to this one?
Well, I think it goes without saying almost that what's happened at Grenfell is terrible, and I think those people have been badly let down by its successive governments, to your point, its regulations, its councils. It's not a single person or a single entity. But what I'm concerned about is that this tragedy, and it is a tragedy, has been leapt on by all kinds of hard left activists, by people trying to whip up some kind of fury to try and create further division in a country that, quite frankly, doesn't need further division. I think these conversations about requisitioning people's homes, I'd never even heard the word requisitioning before all of this stuff that came about.
It happens all the time when we have infrastructure projects, like Crossrail, for example. They've been compulsory
but what's happening now?
Ordering homes all over the London for that.
But what's happening now? Let me just finish my point there. What's happening now is people are saying this, let's take all these empty properties from these rich people. And they're saying it as almost like this political top trumps to make a point. There's empty local authority properties. There's empty buildings. Having this narrative, this narrative about look at all these rich people with their empty homes. If you own a home, it's yours. You can live in it full-time, part-time, or however much of the time. It's your home.
Afua, let's come back to how politicians are behaving. Now, you probably didn't hear this because you were here and I'd come here very late because of the radio and I was on a motorbike, but we had an emergency statement in the Commons from Theresa May, and then there was a response by Jeremy Corbyn, and he actually linked Hillsborough, the Rotherham child abuse scandal, and Grenfell as how working-class people have suffered in all of them. I'm sorry, That is irresponsible language at this time. We should not be trying to foment some kind of working class war revolution. It is tragic what happened. But if you honestly think that councillors, council executives, politicians thought, let's just herd them into a housing block in West London, we don't care, that is wholly and utterly unfair. And language like that does not help at this time.
You know, it's easy to say that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't see this as some conspiracy to screw or burn to death people who are low income. But I think it's really easy to sit here and criticise, as you did, Michelle, you know, far-left activists. The fact is, the residents of Grenfell Tower chose a different kind of cladding that was not combustible. They were ignored. They have been writing blogs trying to get attention for their concerns. Groups like that are always dismissed as kind of, you know, leftist activists. I've covered them so many times. They're not listened to, and now they are actually being heard because people have died. And in the same statement
3 hours ago, Jeremy Corbyn rightly brought that to attention. That's what Mr Corbyn should be talking about. Why were all these warnings ignored? Not trying to stir up working class hostility.
Let me just close on that. I agree with everything we're saying. These people have been badly let down. But the solution, if I wanted to rent an apartment today, it wouldn't take me very long to find a flat to rent. There are many, many properties out there the government could rent for these people. When you talk about there's no stock available, there's a lot. If you go all over London, all I see right now is developments going on everywhere. If the government took responsibility and we have a crisis, it shouldn't be developers buying that land to build those apartments. It should be the government.
I agree.